Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Stefan, and due to overwhelming popular demand, the topic of today's video is going to be on how to practice grounding during the winter. How to ground yourself when it's cold outside. Maybe it's too cold to get outside, to put your bare feet on the ground, to walk around the park barefoot, to spend time outdoors for a reasonable length of time to get grounded. Now, a lot of people think it's impossible to get grounded during the winter. You can use grounding sheets, grounding mats. If you plug them into the ground port of your house, that does expose you to more EMFs. The entire ground system of a house is effectively a very large antenna. So it picks up all the electromagnetic noise in your environment and conducts it to you. So you want to avoid that. And so how do you practice grounding when it's cold outside during the winter months? In a way that is actually effective. And so today we're starting this conversation here on the floor, on the ground, because that's how you practice this. Grounding is more than just connecting to the earth. It's also basically regulating the flow of energy in your body. And one of the main things that people talk about with grounding is enabling this flow of free electrons from the earth to you. The earth contains a bunch of free electrons in the soil, in the mineral structures, and so when you have a positive charge, a positive electromagnetic potential, and the Earth's electromagnetic potential is more negative than yours, then a flow of energy can occur as a result. Now, you can stimulate similar situations by spending time on the ground because this hard surface here applies mechanical tension and pressure on your body. Now, what happens is this stimulates a flow of free electrons from your connective tissues out into your body as a whole. Our connective tissues, our fascia, our tendons, ligaments, and then also our muscles as well, are semiconductors. They contain free electrons in their molecular structure, and so when you apply mechanical pressure to them, that causes those free electrons to pop out. And these form bioelectric signals. And free electrons are very anti-inflammatory. They're very powerful antioxidants because free radicals, which create damage and inflammation in your body, they want an electron to fill up their orbital shell, to be stable. And so you have a reservoir of free electrons in your connective tissues, your extracellular living matrix, the things that, the materials and the part of your body that surrounds all your organs and everything. And so when you apply mechanical pressure to yourself, your tissues, your body, this stimulates that flow of free electrons out because those tissues have piezoelectric properties. They're semiconductors and they're piezoelectric. When you apply mechanical stress to them, the crystal lattice that they have deforms and some of those free electrons pop out. There's extra electrons in those molecular atomic structures and then they pop out when there's a bit of deformation that occurs. So you can just spend time on the ground, and that in and of itself is grounding. That in and of itself will help you to decharge any excess built up energy in your body. It'll help you to stay, reduce your inflammation, to stay in a more parasympathetic, stress-free state, and to overall optimize your bioelectricity. So you can also do that by doing things like stretching. So you can be indoors and you can be stretching, and though you're not outside in contact with the ground, you can still be grounding because one of the big aspects of grounding is reducing your charge, equalizing your charge, finding that harmonious balance, right? Homeostasis. And so the earth is a very extremely valuable ally in this. It's very nice to be able to go outside, put your feet on the ground, and a lot of the work gets done for you. Or if you want to do a deep grounding experience, you can actually lay outside, take a nap, like in a park, far away from any artificial EMFs. That's incredibly healing. Really, really deep autonomic nervous system reset. But you can stimulate a lot of these things by things like stretching or doing some basic yoga moves like what you would do during yin yoga. But just being on the ground, this hard surface applies pressure on your body. So you don't even have to do that. If you just spend more time on the ground itself, that will be grounding over time. And so sleeping on a firm surface, the firmer the better, is very good for this. And I actually sleep on hard surfaces now like this. I sleep on the ground. Well, I have a grounding tent out there. So I'm going to show you, if you are interested in still grounding outside during the winter months, I'll show you a few different methods later on in this video. But first we're starting here and just spending more time on the ground and strengthening your body in this way. You know, ease into it, take your time. But that is very helpful in regulating your bioelectricity and all these amazing health and wellness benefits that come from grounding. So this is called Wolff's Law, where you apply stress and then you strengthen as a result. And so you can spend time on the ground. You can, for example, if you're doing a yoga nidra, let's say you're doing a guided meditation or yoga nidra for 40 minutes, 60 minutes, lay down on the hard surface. It may be uncomfortable. That's kind of the point. You can start to make these things more comfortable and your body becomes more resilient and adaptable when you spend time on the ground surface. Like, the way I think of it is, you shouldn't be uncomfortable just sitting down or laying down on something. Like, our bodies have this fluidity to them. Like, it shouldn't be uncomfortable. Now, of course, some people have injuries and other certain considerations, and so I respect that. But for like the general population, all that takes to be comfortable in some of these positions, let's say just lying down, is spending more time lying down on hard surfaces. So you can really just do things as simple as that. This is all amplified if you are doing this on the ground floor of a building, because you will be closer to the earth, especially if it is a like concrete foundation or a stone foundation. Then that is directly connected to the earth. So even though it may be warm inside, you are still receiving that flow of energy from the earth. But really, just in general, just spending time on the ground is incredibly grounding. It makes sense. It's in the word itself. So another way you can practice grounding, there's a variety of methods that you can use individually or combined, is you can do something like light incense. Incense stimulates alpha brainwave activity. Those are the brain waves that help you to stay calm and relaxed and regulate your autonomic nervous system. So aromatherapy with essential oils, with incense, is incredibly valuable during these months where it's hard to get outside. Or even when you're just feeling a little stressed or off kilter, you can do something like light incense. Just put it somewhere in the room or the house. You don't want to be breathing stuff in directly, but just the scent and the smell and the aromatherapy aspect of it, that is very healing for your autonomic nervous system. And it can help regulate those bioelectric rhythms. And your autonomic nervous system controls your heart rate, controls your breathing, it controls your digestion. So if you notice that you have things like irregular heartbeats or a weak heartbeat, that your breathing is very shallow, you're chest driven, you're not belly driven, right? Diaphragm driven. You have gut health problems, your motility is all over the place, right? Then that's a sign that you have an autonomic nervous system imbalance. And this connects to your immune system, and this connects to your mental health and much more. So another way you can practice grounding is your vagus nerve. Things like yoga nidra are really great for kind of re-optimizing that vagus nerve. It connects to all the different organs of your gut. Almost every organ in the body connects to the microbiome and then goes up to your brain. And the interoceptive signals of the body are fed through the vagus nerve. These are the signals that are generated within your body. So things like yoga nidra, you could type in yoga nidra vagus nerve reset, watch those, do those yoga nidra guided meditations. They're really excellent. They build inner awareness. You bring your consciousness to different parts of the body. Light some incense while you're doing it. You'll definitely be grounded by the end of that as compared to when you started. And then there's also things, for example, there are various rocks and crystals that can be grounding that you can utilize. Our little mineral allies here. This is elite shungite, and just holding on to this, it's very conductive. So it will pull charge away from your body. And then when you're done, you can just set it down somewhere. You could actually put it outside for it to decharge. And if you're doing a yoga nidra, for example, laying down, you could put these on the parts of your body that you're feeling that charge. So elite shungite is really good for that, or just regular shungite. This is hematite iron. This is really great. You can hold on to this, and this works, indoors, outdoors. Of course, it will eventually kind of grab that charge, so you will need to decharge it. It won't last forever in one go. Black tourmaline is another. Even some of these, like slag, just like anything that's kind of metallic and iron will work really well. Or even just a rock. Like just find like a dark colored kind of like basaltic rock. That will absorb charge. The bigger the better. And look, this is heavy, right? This has some weight to it. So if you have that spot that's holding this charge, you put it there, you're laying down, this will stimulate those bioelectric currents to flow out from those connective tissues, like stimulating that anti-inflammatory, antioxidant effect. And a lot of health can kind of get boiled down to like specific things in your body that are out of tilt. And if you start to like clean one area up at a time, overall the entire body will be clean. So instead of looking at like the whole house as a mess, it's like, we're going to clean this room today. I've been feeling inflammation in my shoulder, let's say. Today we're going to do some work and get this shoulder good. We're going to do some voodoo flossing on the shoulder, some mobilization. We'll put some anti-inflammatory like CBD on there, right? And if you get your shoulder healthy, then it'll be easier to now address maybe your knee or the fact that your gut is kind of unsettled at that moment in time. But it really boils down to the big message I want to give you for this video before we get into the rest is that just spending time on the ground itself, doesn't matter if it's indoors or outdoors, is grounding, because it is stimulating those electrons to flow out of your connective tissues, aiding in the healing and the restoration process, and then you can recoup those electrons through healthy diet, and then also by, let's say, using a earthing sheet at night that's connected to a ground wire, connected to a ground rod that you place yourself outside. If you're in an apartment building, you can connect it to, sometimes like in Europe they have like the heaters, those cast iron heaters, you can connect it to that. If you have a balcony, like a metal balcony, you connect it to that. But the ground system of a house you don't want to connect to, because it's effectively a giant antenna. A lot of the energy of the normal like power grid gets funneled to that ground system, and some of that energy will flow to you. And then also all the artificial EMFs that are floating around, cellular, radio, all that stuff, that also gets picked up by those conductive wires. That's some of the laws of electromagnetism. You have a conductive wire, it'll take that magnetic field and turn it into electric current. So you don't want to plug into the ground port of a house. It's one of the big problems with earthing sheets and mats and all that stuff is they don't address that, and that's basic physics. So, but this right here is free. You can do this anywhere to spend more time on the ground. Now, we're going to talk about in the next little clip about if you have localized charge, another method that you can do to release that charge and to ground yourself. The next method for grounding during the winter months, indoors, you can also do this outdoors, is really simple. It's by utilizing a rock wall, brick wall, any sort of earth material. Now this wall here goes all the way down to foundation, of course. It's very heavy. It has to go down to the foundation. So as a result, it's connected to the earth. And these rocks here have the same composition as a lot of different earth materials. So while they're not extremely conductive like metal, they are actually quite conductive compared to a lot of things. So they do allow for a movement of energy through them. And if you put yourself in contact with this wall, then you can decharge yourself that way. And this is connected to the earth. And it's been sitting there for a long time. So those potentials are nice and equalized. So if you put yourself in contact with this for long enough, it will pull that energy out of you. Now, my personal experience with this method here is that I went to a yoga class, and this is indoors, and I was feeling this energy in my chest. It was like this sharp, kind of painful energy on my right side. I did not like how that felt, and as I was in downward dog and doing some different moves, it just kept activating. And I was like, this doesn't feel good, so I stopped doing the main flow, and I did some stretching like this, and it wasn't really going away. So I just got up, left the class, and right outside the door, the entire building is made out of brick. So I just leaned my chest that was feeling that pain and had that energy kind of stored there, that like kind of bundle of energy. I just leaned my chest against the stone wall, the brick wall, for about 60 seconds, and it decharged and it totally went away. So I was just basically like this with that direct point on the wall, and that helped that energy to flow out because this absorbed it all. Now the other component with that is that often these charges in our body are related to emotions. So at that moment in time, there was something that I was kind of dealing with emotionally, and so I took that 60 seconds to give it conscious awareness. I think it was kind of sitting there. I had kind of pushed it aside, and so it was saying, hey, think of me, here's me, I'm right here, like in your like heart area. And that's not healthy, that's not good. You don't want to have any sort of kind of painful charge in that like heart chakra zone. So I went to the wall, I put myself in contact with something that could absorb that charge, and then I dealt with those emotions. It only took about 60 seconds and it went away. I went back to class, everything was fine, had a great flow. And that also in and of itself is very grounding because it helps you to process these emotions. So while it's more active, if you have that ability physically, that's great. It's not necessarily like grounding outside, but doing things like yoga, stretching are very grounding in and of themselves. So you can utilize things, structures like this in your house or your apartment if you have them. And this is a very easy way to ground. And it works really well if you have energy like these parts of the body. Let's say it's in your back, you're feeling your back. You could just simply lean against it, right? And it's the same concept of that mechanical stress and pressure being applied as a result of this being firm. And then it's also too, as a result of just like, how often is your body being exposed to these different stimuli and in different contact? Normally our body's in the air, right? Very resistive. Air is extremely resistive. That's what I was talking about. Like this is much more conductive than air. Air is like 10 to negative 14 Siemens. This is about 10 to negative 5 or so. Here's a chart here showing the conductivity of various materials. But this right here is much more conductive than the air. So just spending time here allows that charge to flow. And like I just had my back against this, it's nice and cool to the touch. So there's a heat differential too. It wants to pull that energy from you. So things like this are incredibly helpful for grounding during the winter. Now let's go outside and talk about how you can practice grounding and earthing outside during the winter, even when it's really cold out. Just because it's cold out doesn't mean that you can't get outside and do these things. I think the most important thing to point out is that what you practice is what you get good at, and cold exposure is one of those things. So one of the benefits of going outside and grounding during the winter is that if it is cold where you are, that temperature differential is greater between your body and the earth, and as a result the earthing effect, the grounding effect, takes less time because there's a faster flow of energy between those two potentials. So you don't need to spend as much time outside grounding to become grounded, to balance your charges when it is cold outside. That's one of the benefits. And so as it relates to your comfort, then it really just comes down to how well adapted are you to the cold. Some people have faster metabolisms, they stay warm. I'm one of those people. Other people have metabolisms that don't generate as much internal heat. There's also people who have circulatory issues, so of course do what is best for you, and you don't want to get frostbite or anything like that. So, you know, be healthy, be smart. But of course, if you practice going outside and grounding, and you start with, let's say, 3 minutes at a time, and then you go to 5, then you go to 10, you will improve. I can speak from this with experience. I have my earthing tent right there. We're going to go there next. And that has greatly improved my cold resistance because I sleep in that at night, and it's been getting below freezing every night. And that's the best way to ground yourself. So if I'm doing this because I'm really interested in this. I am doing deep experimentation into earthing and grounding so I can share this info with you. But if you have, let's say, a really bad chronic disease or a lot of inflammation or cancer, that's probably one of the best natural healing things you could do. I'm not a medical doctor, so this is just talking about electromagnetism and health in a very broad concept. Now, so you can go outside. It's definitely helpful when the sun is out. So during fair weather conditions, find a place where it's sunny. Those photons will warm you up, so it feels good. And you don't have to be on the actual ground. This concrete here is also very grounded. The conductivity of, let's say, a clay soil is higher than it is for concrete, or these little blocks here, but this is still quite a bit more conductive than the air. So you can put your feet on the ground. If that's too cold, don't worry about putting some socks on. You can put some socks on your feet, especially if they're a natural fiber, and eventually that conductive contact will be built and you can decharge energy there, and this will help your feet from perhaps getting overly cold or numb or tingly or losing circulation. But if it's too cold for you at the beginning, just spend a minute, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Anyone can do that. We're not talking about taking a dunk into an ice tank. We're just talking about going outside. Bundle up, right? Wear some really warm clothes. You can put a hat on, the whole deal. And if you really need extra assistance in staying warm, you could have some hot tea. Chamomile tea is very grounding. Dandelion root tea is very grounding. Passion flower is very grounding. You combine all those together. You could also have a big meal before you come out. A big, nice hot meal, soup or stew, or something really hearty, chili, something, you know, you get the idea. You can put that in your belly. That will help you stay warm. And so you can come out here and just spend some time like this. Again, you can also incorporate your stretching into this outdoor component. And the other aspect with grounding, if we look at it more from earthing, the broader perspective is that by leaving the house, you're kind of moving away from these enhanced electromagnetic fields that are artificially created, man-made, like the power grid, your Wi-Fi, cell phone, cellular, all this stuff. There's so many smart devices now in homes that you have so many competing Wi-Fi networks and things of that nature that it's just saturated with energy in these microwave bands, and those interact with us at the cellular and molecular levels. So there is huge benefit in going outside even when it's cold out, and really the key is you just have to be consistent. You have to be disciplined. You have to do it. You have to do it. So just know that with time, practice, consistency, you will get better, you will improve, and your cold adaptation and resistance will improve too. And that's just good in general. It's good to have better variability and adaptability to hot and cold climates. This is also related to your circulation. You improve your circulation, you improve the flow of energy in your body. So going outside, just sitting, or you could lay out here just a little bit, just be more conscious of the time aspect. Just do it for the amount of time that's comfortable for you. Don't be afraid to put on socks. It doesn't have to be barefoot, and you'll be good to go. But now let's go over to this earthing tent for those of you who really want to learn how you can do deep earthing even during the winter months. We'll do a quick look at my earthing tent. So here is my earthing tent. I like to sleep in this when I can outside to get away from those artificial electromagnetic fields. I find I sleep better, I have less inflammation in my body, I feel better, more vital, and it potentiates dreams by being in direct contact with the earth and the natural telluric currents and the Schumann resonances and all those amazing, wonderful, natural earth energies. You can really feel them when you're here and you're not elevated in a building or far away or things of that nature. So this tent right here, I bought on Amazon for like $100. It's amazing. I was kind of skeptical about how good it would be, but it's a really great tent, so I'll put the link in the video description. It has these air vents up top. One of the benefits of sleeping outside is that you get fresh air, and then you can pump fresh air through your body all throughout the night. That's also another way to practice grounding during the winter months, whether you're inside or you're out, is doing deep breathing, really engaging your diaphragm, because oxygen carries a charge, and by doing deep breathing throughout your entire body, it's very anti-inflammatory, very grounding. It helps stabilize your autonomic nervous system. Now here you'll see the grounding rod. This is a copper rod I placed in the ground nearby, and here is the wire, and I have this connected to my do-it-yourself grounding sheet. I'll put a link to that in the video description, how you can make one of these yourselves. And so basically what I do is I put some blankets down underneath. Those can be polyester if you want them to be or whatever. They don't have to be natural fiber. Then you put the grounding sheet down. So then you have that conductive layer, and then on top of that grounding sheet you want natural fiber. So I have my thick blanket here. This is natural fiber, and then the grounding sheet is directly underneath it. So you want anything that's on top of that grounding sheet to be a natural fiber, and that's not a problem. You don't need to sleep directly on the grounding sheet. Ideally you actually don't, so it stays unoxidized, because copper will oxidize, silver will oxidize, and that charge flow will establish through anything that's a natural material. I have my sleeping bag here, so even when it goes below freezing, I stay warm. When it's 32 or above, or 0 centigrade and above, I typically keep that unzipped and I just have it on top of me, so I establish a lot of warmth on top of me. But this layer here below me is just a few blankets and then the hard ground surface. So that's also that grounding aspect, being on a hard surface coming back into play. That's very grounding, especially when you do it outside. And then this just connects to that earthing blanket. I rotate the tent around as needed to keep the lawn healthy. I have extra blankets if need be. If it gets really cold, then I can layer up more. I can even get inside the bag if needed. Yes, some of the things in there, like the sleeping bag, yeah, it's like nylon on the outside, right? It's down on the inside. That's very insulatory. That's why you stay warm. It's because it's insulating, right? But it's also like where you in the broader context. In this instance, you're in this big field, right? And you're out in the elements, and there's deer that come by and they're sniffing your tent and things. Like, you are definitely grounded. Doesn't matter if your sleeping bag has a little bit of nylon or down on it. Let's not get lost in the details here, right? Anyone that's spent time in something like this can attest to the fact that it's extremely grounding. And you don't have to overanalyze every single detail. What's more important is actually doing it. But this is more for the advanced people. I'll put the link to this tent in the video description. I love this thing, but it's very roomy, a lot of extra room. These air vents up top are great. I've been out here before where it snowed, and that was in my old tent where I didn't have those air vents, and it piled up on the sides, and all of a sudden I was like, because of the carbon dioxide and the monoxide and everything. So you want these air vents, they're really good. I haven't had any problem with them in regards to rain, but just being outside during the night when your body wants to be in that deep restorative state, I'm nice and warm. I'm very cozy in this. And over time, I've improved my ability to stay warm even as it's gotten colder as we lead into winter now. This has still kept me very warm, and yeah, it's great. I highly recommend it. So anyone that wants to experiment with this, they can do that. Do-it-yourself earthing sheet, connect it to a ground rod like we have here, and then just pile up whatever blankets necessary. Get a nice sleeping bag rated for below freezing, ideally like 15 degrees or so, or that would be, let's say, like negative 10 centigrade if you're in the rest of the world, the sane world. But this is one of the best ways you can ground yourself. And yeah, you can do this during the winter. Now, it's not winter here yet, but it's been getting cold. That's really the context of this video, how to practice grounding when it's cold outside. And yeah, you can still do this. I hope you found this video useful on how to practice grounding during the winter, during when it's cold outside. I've given you a whole bunch of different methods. You can combine them, you can use them independently. Basically, they're tools in a toolbox. So just learn them, practice them, and then you can incorporate them into your lifestyle as necessary. I think the most important one, the most valuable one, would be just spending time on the ground, on hard surfaces, you know, getting comfortable in the uncomfortable. And that's kind of just a lesson in life in general that I kind of espouse. So I recommend that you just take baby steps there. But to do that, to spend time on the ground itself, whether this is stretching or just laying down with the Yoga Nidra track, I think you get the idea. A couple other things too is that you can also just practice grounding by exposing your bare skin to you know, the outside because of that temperature differential. Yes, it's cold, but make sure the rest of you is bundled up. And especially on those nice days, get that vitamin D synthesis. That's really, really good. That helps you to stabilize your hormone system and your endocrine system and all these different aspects of your body, your immunity. Of course, if you're sick, you have all these charges in your body that are going crazy and inflammation, so you don't want to get sick, and vitamin D is an important aspect of that. Now, the one other thing too is that it's also being mindful of your environment. For example, the weather isn't always crummy. Some places it's more so than others, but in general, sometimes there'll be nice days and other times there'll be days that aren't as nice. So when it is a nice day, make sure you rearrange things so you can capitalize on that, because grounding isn't just a daily thing. Like, oh, if I don't ground today, I'm ungrounded. It's also operates on different time scales. For example, you may be very grounded during the summer and there's like a lag time there, you know, that has momentum to it, inertia, that'll move into the winter. Because it's, what are the energetic states of your body? What's your inflammatory state, right? Is everything healthy? Well, if something's healthy, it takes a while to dysregulate. And if something's dysregulated, it takes a while to return back to normal and into balance. So, you know, practice grounding as much as you can during the summer, during the fall, during the spring, when you can. That will carry into those months where it's a little bit more difficult to get outside. And then if it's a nice day like it is right now, take that opportunity to go out, even just for 5 minutes. And let's just say your feet are on the ground and you're doing some deep breathing. You don't even have to go to a nice natural area like I have here. You can just put your feet on the concrete. Maybe it's your front door, patio, whatever, the sidewalk. Like, all those things are very valuable. So chase those opportunities, identify those opportunities, cultivate that mindfulness about how do I feel internally, which is what Yoga Nidra is great for, and what's happening in my environment that can help me to balance my internal energies. How can I work cooperatively with the earth? And how is she helping me to heal and balance myself? She's always providing these opportunities in these moments of enhanced consciousness and mindfulness and wellness for us. It's just up to us to seize those moments and to follow through on them and actually do the thing. So I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please click the thumbs up, subscribe, you know the whole deal. Share this with people who need help with grounding during the winter when it's cold outside. Because again, the whole beginning of that video is on how to do it indoors. And yeah, if you have any future questions on earthing or grounding that you would like me to address, please leave them in the comments below, just like you did requesting for this video. I read all the comments and I will eventually get to those and address that topic. Happy to do so. If you want to learn more about earthing and grounding, I have a video playlist you can watch here. There it is. And then I also have a specific video on earthing that's about 30 minutes long that goes into, you know, kind of the overall basics of it, which you can watch right here.